Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Francisco Varela, and I head our platform partnerships for YouTube. Let me just get this started for you. Get the presentation, please. Let's go back. That's where we're supposed to be. So thank you very much. YouTube is an exciting story, one of the most exciting stories of the world. And for most of us here in this room, using your phone to share YouTube video, to update on Facebook or G+, or share something via Twitter, has become second habit. In fact, I guarantee you that someone in this room, and I don't know who you are, is playing on your phone right now instead of listening to the YouTube guy. Am I right? Raise your hand, actually. You don't have to, it's okay. But I know you're doing it, and the reason because it's become second nature to all of us in this room. But if you cut the data connection to my phone, you fundamentally limit its purposes and use to me. Right? All of a sudden, it just can make a phone call instead of accessing all those thousands and millions of points of information that I use on a daily basis. But for all of that interactivity that we have, you have to realize that we're the privileged few. We're the ones setting the pace for the rest of the world. And if we get it right, the benefits for humanity are tremendous. When you look at the numbers, the real numbers, last year, the world hit 7 billion people. Of those 7 billion, only 2 billion were online. Only 2 billion, less than a third of humanity, has ever done an online search or bought anything or even watched a YouTube video. And of that 2 billion, only 1 billion, half of those, own a smartphone and can do it on the fly. Imagine how much better this is going to be when we bring the rest of this to humanity. For all the benefits of the World Wide Web, it has yet to live up to its title. It's narrow to us. We need to be realists about the digital divide, and that it's very real, especially in places like India and Brazil, where millions of people still do not have access to the internet. But being a realist doesn't mean being a defeatist. Every revolution starts with a small group like us. And that's why I'm so passionate about the work that we're doing at YouTube. It's about bringing the internet and video, arguably the most powerful form of information, to those other 5 billion people worldwide. And in my world, and my mission, is to get that to them in the easiest way possible, in the most accessible screen possible. And for most folks, that's going to be on their mobile phone, whether that be a smartphone or a feature phone, or their television screen, which already exists. Now, for those of you who argue with the power of information, and particularly of video, Cisco recently reported that 86% of internet traffic would be video-based by the year 2015. Think of how much that information that is, whether it be a recent study in Antarctica or Carnival from the stages of Rio. YouTube began its implementations in 2006 on these types of screens, largely based around API implementations. This means that we relied on our partners for their product and engineering to build applications. In 2007, we launched iPhone. We launched a mobile website in 2008, as well as some TVs. And you saw some terrific announcements around these products. And they were great for the time, right? They allowed someone just to watch a YouTube video. But these implementations varied tremendously. Some of them just let you watch. Some of them let you share, as well as sign into your account. Maybe even comment on a few videos. But they varied across the platform. And for a company like us that's constantly iterating and changing the features that we have available, this isn't a partnership that we can maintain. Whenever you have to rely on someone else to develop for you, you're locked for a period of time. So what we found is that devices in market, and even those that were waiting to launch, it would be very difficult to make the changes that we needed to make. To bring in a new feature, it took months of design, took months of testing, and we just couldn't exist in that environment. So we had to fundamentally change the way that we approach devices. And we look at it now in 4 different ways. First, we're looking at implementations that are YouTube developed and controlled, where we rely on our own product resources, our own engineering resources to create the essential product. 2, it has to be fully featured. Right? You have to be able to share, you have to be able to comment, you have to be able to sign in and access your playlist, all those things that people love to do on YouTube. It has to be updatable. So we have to be able to change it. So even though we might launch with all the products and the features that we want, you have to be able to go back and make those changes, whether it be a television or a mobile phone. And finally, it has to be monetizable. So our content owners, the guys who actually own all that terrific content on YouTube, can have a platform on which to make money and create more terrific content. When we did our API implementations, We lacked a single platform on which to base our technology. But with HTML5 now becoming more prevalent on TVs and set-top boxes, with feature phones, with HTML5 browsers, smartphones like iPhone and Android, where we can actually just build an app that addresses a tremendous part of the market, we now have core 4 technologies that we can base upon to build our products. Now, by far, the biggest growth in our products has been in mobile. I mean, the key to remember is that the mobile data revolution story is actually the story of internet services. People don't buy data plans so they can collect air miles into their account. Right? They don't just sit on them, they use them. They're going to access Twitter, they're accessing YouTube, they're accessing Google+. All those services that they use on the PC, they're going to the mobile phone for. And that's where the revolution begins for us. Whether it be in a small market, I want to think about a very small market like Connecticut, the state of Connecticut in the United States, or something very large with India. We believe that the mobile phone is going to be the primary driver towards accessing video worldwide. Now, for us at YouTube, we've seen tremendous growth over the last 2 years, continuing to grow far beyond the PC usage. Here's our latest stats. Over 25% of YouTube views globally are now from a mobile device. That includes mobile phone, feature phone, and tablets. In countries like Korea, where mobile phone usage is very high, those numbers increased to over 50% of our views being from mobile devices. YouTube is now streaming over 1 billion playbacks a day through mobile devices. And we have that entire YouTube catalog available through most of our implementations. Hundreds of millions of people a day are accessing YouTube from their mobile devices. And how did we get there? Through our partnerships. People are actually pretty surprised to hear this when I mention it, because they think YouTube and its brand is so incredible. Why would you ever need partnerships in this space? But for those of you who understand the device environment, this is as clear as day. So why do we need strong partnerships? Because this ecosystem is really dependent on 4 different factors. First, it's having a terrific product. Second, you have to have the device technology in place. Third, you need some sort of data access to that device. And finally, people have to be aware that all of this is there for them to access. If you look at these 4 quadrants, we are entirely responsible for 1. That's it. I can control one thing here, and that's our product, and making sure it's the best product for that device. Otherwise, I'm relying on partnerships like Samsung, LG, HTC, Hitachi, all of those, to build a great device that will allow us to bring YouTube to the consumer. Access. It means nothing unless you have the data access there. And there's 2 parts to that are core to understand. One is a terrific network, and that could be 3G or 4G network over mobile phones, or broadband into the home. So terrific partnerships with companies like Verizon and Vodafone and Docomo over in Japan. But if you have the data access and it's not affordable to the consumer, then it means nothing. So we work with our operator partners to ensure that those connections are ones that people can afford. Someone actually can sign up for that data plan without costing them too much. And finally, awareness. It's not often that you see a Google commercial or a YouTube commercial on TV, and that's because our marketing budgets are relatively small. Plus, we recognize that partnering with our device manufacturers or our operator partners in that co-marketing opportunity will bring much more attention than simply just saying, hey, go grab YouTube on your phone. So all of these factors have to exist. And I guarantee you that any country where you see YouTube mobile doing well or YouTube on TV is doing well, all of those things are clicking at the same time. So in the mobile field, our goal absolutely is to get the full YouTube experience to that mobile device. Let me show you some changes that we've just made over the last year. This is representative of our Android application, but we're also changing our mobile website as well as our other mobile implementations to follow this guide. I shouldn't have used the word guide because that is the second one, but to follow this format. First is the video player. This is where you're going to spend most of your time, right? This is where you're going to spend the time watching the video, engaging with the video. And what we've done here is made it possible for you to actually start interacting while you're watching the video itself. Right? You can comment, you can share it on Twitter, anything, G+. You can do that while you're watching that video. Look for related videos. Maybe even get just the information about what you're watching. Second, the guide. And the guide is very important to us because much like most people have a DVR in their home, we want you to have a DVR on YouTube. We know that there are trusted sources that you're going to go back to time and time again to get videos that are either informational to you or just plain entertaining. And we want to make sure that those are accessible to you at any time of day and at any time of your experience. So in our Android application, you just swipe your hand, and sure enough, your channels that you've already subscribed to are there. Lastly, we have the concept of the channel, the place where the content creator can come and upload their videos, whether they be episodic or just one at a time, so that their users can come and see what the latest that they've done. We're even taking this a step further. Some of you may have heard of our launch of 100 channels in the United States that were funded with a $100 million investment. We've also now announced 60 new channels in Europe that are funded, focused on the European market to bring the best online content to YouTube. And it'll be exclusive to YouTube. So we give you a reason to come and watch. Improvements in mobile delivery are quite important to us. And that's because we're a partner in the mobile ecosystem. And we also worry about you not being able to see your video within just a few seconds of you clicking that button. None of us enjoy the experience of the spinning and waiting and then getting a low-quality video that you can't share with anyone. So we've enabled preloading of videos in our Android application, which means that subscriptions that we know you have will load in the background. Now, to start playing, you still have to have that internet connection, but it'll continue playing in high quality and something that you'll enjoy watching. We also use adaptive bitrate streaming now, so that we can monitor those network conditions if you haven't preloaded the video, and that way it reduces latency, and we're also a good partner in that mobile ecosystem. Just a few weeks ago, we also launched our iPhone app. Some of you may have seen this, that we came off iOS 6 as a preload. And that's because it was one of those old API implementations that I mentioned before. The constant complaint we had about the Apple application was that users couldn't watch the videos that they saw on their PC on their iPhone. Lots of times this was music. I know the speaker after me is very focused on Lady Gaga, and I know we all love her more than God himself. And Lady Gaga was one of those videos you could never watch on your iPhone. But with our new application, you certainly can. We talked a bit about emerging markets, and this is where my team is very focused this year, primarily on India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Brazil. These are countries where we see that people are accessing the internet for the first time via their mobile devices, not a PC. And if you remember the 4 quadrants we talked about just a few minutes ago, this is where we see some of those fundamental challenges. Challenges of devices, challenges of affordability of data plan. We're seeing those walls come down, particularly in regards to smartphones. We've worked with companies like MediaTek and LG and Samsung so that their smartphone devices, which are selling in the millions in these countries, can play a YouTube video. Now, it's not as good as a smartphone experience, and we're not going to have the resolution on the screen. But we believe that video is transformational and informational. So it's important to bring our YouTube experience to these markets. Let me share some basic numbers. If you look here at India, close to 600 million subscribers, close to 1 billion subscribers in India, 580 million of them have feature phones. Similar ratios in Brazil. Smartphones just are not the main device in these countries. In Brazil, an iPhone will cost you $1,500, about 1,000 euros. Even for most of us in this room, that's just too much money to pay for a phone. So we have to address the realities of that market. And this is where we put video streaming into 2 different buckets. First is a smartphone, and you see the platforms here that we address: Android, iPhone, Windows Mobile, BlackBerry. And the way we treat video streaming there is fundamentally different to how we have to treat the basic HTML streaming that we have to do for feature phones. It's a bit of a compromise, I recognize, and I know there's frustration when a user can't get everything that they want on a particular phone. But at this point, it's the best way to address that market, and we certainly don't want to be ignoring billions of users that we could access. Now, the mobile device is certainly your most personal. It sits next to me when I sleep at night. Right? It's constantly on me. Actually, I took off my phone for this presentation. I feel a little strange. I feel a little uncomfortable, right? You just want to know you've got that safety net next to you. But the TV remains the primary viewing device in the home. It's your most beautiful, your largest screen. And how should we address that? Some of you may be familiar with YouTube XL. That was our first internet-based TV site. Full HTML, you went to youtube.com/XL. It was, as best we could at the time, optimized for the TV screen. But we learned some fundamental lessons from that experience. And they likely seem obvious to you, but we had to go through the experiment to learn it. First of all, latency and video quality are incredibly important on the TV. That 480p video that looks terrific on your phone or on your PC looks terrible on a 42-inch large screen device. So we have to be able to deliver in HD. Secondly, people are prone to long-form viewing on a television. Now, long-form for us is about 20 minutes or so. So that 3-minute clip and then having to search simply won't cut it on TV. We have to provide an experience where you can lean back and enjoy for the rest of your time. Finally, searching is incredibly difficult on a TV. Right? Most of those grid implementations for TV, anything over a few characters becomes very, very frustrating. So to attack this problem, we developed an entirely new application for TV. What you're looking at here is our new HTML5 UI, which just launched a few weeks ago. We'll be bringing this to television devices in the spring. But the whole concept here is bringing you to the video and a playlist as soon as possible. You'll notice in that first quadrant that as soon as you turn on your TV, you can play a video quickly. You don't have to search, and if you're signed in, it's even better. We've got your guide and your playlist listed right there. If you do have to search, we start to autocomplete as soon as you press a button. Here, the demonstration that we're giving is someone has pressed B. Now, for a lot of people, they love music, particularly on their TV, so we've preloaded Beyonce. Well, if you continue typing, we'll give you new searches as best as we can figure those out. But we have to make that much easier for the consumer. And finally, the player controls have to be simple. Right? This is all run from the 4 buttons of your remote. You don't need a QWERTY keyboard to run this new experience. Finally, it plays in HD automatically. You don't have to wait for it to upload. You have to press a button like you do on mobile to get to the high-quality experience. We recognize that you're on a large screen. We better give you that video in the best quality that we can. It's been predicted that there'll be over 500 million smart TVs distributed by the end of 2015. More people are going to be watching YouTube videos via their PC than possibly even their tablet devices. And it's here where I'm really proud of our efforts. How do we get to these devices? Over the last 18 months, my team has worked furiously with Samsung, with LG, with Sony, all of these device manufacturers around the world to ensure that the best-in-class YouTube experiences are on their TVs and Blu-ray players. But we realize that not everyone has these top-tier brands in their home, and that we need to create multiple touch points in that home. So we've worked with companies like MediaTek and Realtek to ensure that all those other brands are leveraged through their chipset manufacturers. In other words, there are companies out there who just go to a particular chipset manufacturer and ask for you to be preloaded into their feature devices. And that's what we're providing. Lastly, I'd like to speak about our interaction with game consoles. Xbox and PlayStation 3 have now launched for YouTube, and these are different implementations. And the reason for doing so is recognizing how powerful this hardware is. Right? These have incredible processors compared to televisions and Blu-ray players, and new features that we would be silly not to leverage. So for example, in our Xbox implementation, we're seamlessly integrated into Connect, so you can swipe through videos. You can bring things in a little bit closer for yourself and really interact in the way that you almost would a video game. Now, I'd like to take a minute to talk about the hottest topic in the mobile and TV field, and that's that second screen experience. What's it going to be? We know that the majority of people have a tablet or a smartphone in front of them while they're interacting with their TV. How do we leverage this opportunity? There are some out there that says, oh, well, if you know what they're watching, just put an ad in front of them or put related videos of what they're watching in front of them. But what we're seeing is that people want to interact with different things while they're watching their mobile device. They're checking their email. They're searching for something unrelated to the content. How do we leverage this opportunity? For us, there's some core factors that we need to recognize about this interexchange between the devices. First, it's that the TV is optimized for viewing. Your mobile device is absolutely suited for searching for you. Content is best solved from the mobile device. We have to be hardware agnostic. So we can't lock you into an experience where you'd have to have an Android phone and an Android TV. We have to be able to go across these platforms. I'm running low on time, so I'm going to skip ahead. And this is our answer now, is pairing. Some of you may have already seen this. What this requires you to do, it's about a 6-step process. You're in your application, you go to this screen, we give you a code, you open up the YouTube application on your phone, you then go to the website and press activate and enter your code, and then you're paired. How many people are excited about that process? Great, because my wife gave up at step number 3. It's just not going to happen for your everyday user. So this is our process now, but I recognize, and with all the criticism out there of how we're trying to do this, we have to get better. And I guarantee you that we will in the next year. But the core story here is that we have to get out of the user's way. We have to allow them to engage on their devices exactly as they wish to engage. So if you're watching your TV and you want to pop up a YouTube video, we have to be able to let you do that, send your video to your TV, and then allow you to go back to whatever it was that you were doing on your device, or would like to do on your device while that YouTube video is playing on your TV. And that'll be our goal. So when we look at the future of YouTube, my goals, my vision, is to get to those extra 5 billion people, to bring them into the conversation. If there's one thing that we've learned, is that if you arm people with information, they'll change the world. I'm not sure how, but it'll be for the benefit of humanity, and I'm looking forward to that. Thank you very much.
Oh. Questions? No.
Okay, take some questions.
¿Alguna pregunta para Francisco? Yo la pido por aquí, por este lado primero. ¿Dudas? Solamente hay que levantar la mano.
Hello. Here. You mentioned that you only focus on the product. Yeah? We can forget about the other 3 Ps from the old marketing school. 1 P is good enough. But I recognize that Google also does something in access when they build their own fiber networks. How does that fit into your strategy?
I think we're referring to the Kansas City experiment. For those of you who don't know, Google has built its own fiber product in Kansas City, Missouri, in the US. That's largely an experiment. We put in a 100 gigabit connection into most homes. As far as how it impacts YouTube directly, we just see a faster way to bring the video to the home. Again, it's one city. We've announced that there may be more, but I don't think that you're going to see Google lay heavily into the fiber space.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
¿Más preguntas? No hay más preguntas por ningún sitio. Ahora ya veo mejor. ¿Nada? Bien.
Thank you very much.
Francisco. Thank you very much. Okay.
Gracias. To those other 5 billion people worldwide. And in my world, and my mission, is to get that to them in the easiest way possible, in the most accessible screen possible. And for most folks, that's going to be on their mobile phone, whether that be a smartphone or a feature phone, or their television screen, which already exists. Now, for those of you who argue with the power of information, and particularly of video, Cisco recently reported that 86% of internet traffic would be video-based by the year 2015. Think of how much that information that is, whether it be a recent study in Antarctica or... Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Francisco Varela, and I head our platform partnerships for YouTube. Let me just get this started for you. Get the presentation, please. Let's go back. That's where we're supposed to be. So thank you very much. YouTube is an exciting story, one of the most exciting stories of the world. And for most of us here in this room, using your phone to share YouTube video, to update on Facebook or G+, or share something via Twitter, has become... For all the benefits of the World Wide Web, it has yet to live up to its title. It's narrow to us. We need to be realists about the digital divide, and that it's very real, especially in places like India and Brazil, where millions of people still do not have access to the internet. But being a realist doesn't mean being a defeatist. Every revolution starts with a small group like us. And that's why I'm so passionate about the work that we're doing at YouTube. It's about bringing the internet and video, arguably the most powerful form of information, second habit. In fact, I guarantee you that someone in this room, and I don't know who you are, is playing on your phone right now instead of listening to the YouTube guy. Am I right? Raise your hand, actually. You don't have to, it's okay. But I know you're doing it, and the reason because it's become second nature to all of us in this room. But if you cut the data connection to my phone, you fundamentally limit its purposes and use to me. Right? All of a sudden, it just can make a phone call instead of accessing all those thousands and millions of points of information that I use on a daily basis. But for all of that interactivity that we have, you have to realize that we're the privileged few. We're the ones setting the pace for the rest of the world. And if we get it right, the benefits for humanity are tremendous. When you look at the numbers, the real numbers, last year, the world hit 7 billion people. Of those 7 billion, only 2 billion were online. Only 2 billion, less than a third of humanity has ever done an online search or bought anything or even watched a YouTube video. And of that 2 billion, only 1 billion, half of those, own a smartphone and can do it on the fly. Imagine how much better this is going to be when we bring the rest of this to humanity.